Is everyone ready in the control room?
Yes, we are ready.
Cool, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Before we call this meeting to order, we will hear instruction on how the public may access Spanish interpretation.
Thank you. The following message will repeat in Spanish. We are offering live interpretation in Spanish via our Zoom platform. To access our Spanish channel, press the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen, where you will see a globe icon. Choose Spanish. If you join in via Zoom smartphone app, select your language by clicking More, or the three dots at the bottom of your screen, select Language Interpretation and choose Spanish. Bienvenidos, estamos ofreciendo interpretación en vivo y en directo durante esta sesión en nuestra plataforma Zoom. Para tener acceso a interpretación, oprima el icono del globo terráqueo al pie de su pantalla y seleccione Spanish o español según su formato. Si está uniéndose vía Zoom en su teléfono inteligente, seleccione los tres puntitos al pie y a la derecha de su pantalla. Elija Interpretación de idiomas y presione Spanish o español. Muchas gracias. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much. With that, we will call this meeting to order, and could everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? We'll move on to roll call.
Commissioner Howard,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Here.
Vice Chair Feiger,
Here.
Chair Vierocek,
Present.
all present, thank you.
Thank you so much. So we will go ahead and start this meeting off with public communications. And this is the public's opportunity to speak on any topic which is not on today's agenda. Any comments would be limited to 3 minutes. Sir, come on up.
Hi, my name is Lou Perini, and I just wanted to make sure I had a chance to comment on new business item number 3.
That will be later, and we will have public comment on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to speak on anything that is not on today's agenda? Seeing nobody, let's open it up for Zoom.
We'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on any topic not on today's agenda. No public comments at this time, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let's go right on to our consent agenda. So once again, we will open this item up for public comment. This is only on the consent portion of the agenda. Do we have anyone in the audience speak on that? Seeing none, back to Zoom.
We'll open up Zoom for anyone who wants to provide public comment on the consent agenda. No public comments, Chair.
Thank you, and we'll bring it back to Planning Commission. Do we have a motion or?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I make a motion. We pass a motion to approve the October 26, 2023 Planning Commission meeting minutes.
I can second that.
That motion unanimously carries.
Thank you very much. Before we get into new business, I did just want to mention we did receive a public comment regarding is it an anti-hate march later this afternoon at 5 p.m. We are going to do our best to be done before then. So anyone who wants to participate may join. Thank you. All right. Our first item in new business is regarding the general plan and city code amendments. Thank you, Mr. Achak, for the presentation.
And before we get started,
Oh.
we do have one recusal.
Yep, I have a property ownership right on the edge, so out of an abundance of caution, as we always do, I have to recuse from this item.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, John Hitchcock, Planning Manager from City of South Lake Tahoe. The item before you is a consideration of the Upper Truckee Marsh annexation. Under California law, Cortez-No-Hertzberg Local Government Reorganization Act of 2000 allows incorporated cities to add land to areas within their jurisdictional boundaries. The act is intended to encourage the orderly growth and development which are essential to the social, fiscal, and economic well-being of the state, and to ensure efficient, cost-effective, and reliable delivery of municipal services to California citizenry. On June 6, 2023, the City Council received a presentation on 5 annexation scenarios. At that meeting, they passed a motion to proceed with that annexation process. One scenario is called the cleanup annexation scenario, which includes the Upper Truckee Marsh, the KOA campground, the parcels along Barber Avenue, and then parcels owned by the South Tahoe Public Utility District. And then also, second scenario is the Heavenly California base. That process is going to move on its own annexation process. The city is going through the annexation process. The city does provide services to this area, which are adjacent to city limits and are geographically removed from the inhabited portions of El Dorado County. The city does not receive any tax revenues to support the provision of these services that we provide for these parcels. Here's a map of the annexation area. It includes the KOA campground, areas within Upper Truckee Marsh owned by the Tahoe Resource Conservation District, and also the parcels owned by California Tahoe Conservancy, which are along Barber Avenue, and then parcels owned by Lake Tahoe Community College and STPUD. Here's a map showing ownership. The area is about 411.8 acres in size, about 90 parcels. The ownership is split between private, the Tahoe Resource Conservation District, California Tahoe Conservancy. The city owns a couple parcels in there, STPD and Lake Tahoe Community College. I just want to point out in my staff report, I did have an error. I did not point out in the staff report that the Tahoe Resource Conservation District actually owns quite a bit of land in here. I lumped them in with the state of California, and not realizing that they're actually a special district and not part of the state of California. State law requires for the annexation process, before we can submit to LAFCO, an application to LAFCO, we're required to pre-zone the annexation area. City's proposing to pre-zone the properties with the underlying TRPA planner statement land use designation. That is planner statement 109, which is recreation, planner statement 110, which is mixed use, planner statement 100 and 095, which are conservation, and planner statement 105, which is currently residential. So there is no change in underlying zoning. We are adopting the current zoning that applies to these parcels, and therefore there's no change in development potential as part of this pre-zone process. The applicable planner statement would continue to provide land use guidance and regulatory guidance. State law requires us to amend the general plan. We must show the pre-zone must be identified in the general plan map. Staff is recommending an amendment to figure LU1, which is land use diagram within the city's general plan, to incorporate this annexation area and assign the land use pre-zoning that is based on TRPA's land use designation. We also need to amend the city code to reference the appropriate planner statements, in this case, planner statement 095 Trout Creek, which is not located in the city, while the other plan areas all have some portion within the city, so they're already referenced in the city code. And also to fix some corrected outdated community plan references which don't exist anymore. The next steps in this process is to go before City Council. The City Council must adopt a pre-zone and adopt the amendments to the city code and adopt amendments to the general plan. The City Council will also be required to adopt a resolution of intent to annex prior to submitting any application to LAFCO. During this process, after the City Council takes action, the city will then be submitting an application to LAFCO for the annexation. That then triggers the city's process to begin meeting with affected districts and affected agencies on the annexation process itself. During that period, all review and permitting will continue to be administered by El Dorado County and TRPA. These amendments and the pre-zone would only be effective if and when LAFCO approves the annexation. Staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt a resolution amending General Plan Land Use LU1, Land Use Diagram, City Code Title 6, Chapter 6.55, Article 2, Section 6.55.120, pre-zoning 90 parcels for subsequent annexation of such properties. Find that the pre-zoning of the properties in a general plan is consistent with, finding the pre-zoning of the properties in a general plan amendment is consistent with the adopted general plan, and finding that the proposed annexation is exempt from SEQA pursuant to Section 15319. And that concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hitchcock. Do we have any questions related to the presentation? All right, thank you. We will go ahead and open this item up for public comment. So I know there's quite a few people here, I imagine, for this item, so please just come on up one at a time, and yeah, whoever's ready first. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Commission, for allowing the opportunity to speak on this. My name is Andrew Scher. I am the Restoration Program Manager for the Tahoe Resource Conservation District, and I am responsible for the management of the Johnson Meadow property, as well as the ongoing restoration planning for the EIP Priority SEZ Restoration Project happening on that property. Tahoe RCD is a grant-funded special district. As John mentioned, we were founded in 1974 and have been operating in South Lake Tahoe since. In regards to item 2 under discussion right now, Tahoe RCD actually owns the majority of the annexation area as the majority property owner of approximately 206 of the 411 or so acres in this annexation proposal area. And as John mentioned, despite that, there was an unfortunate oversight in the staff report, and we were not listed as a public property owner. And despite what the staff report also says, we as an agency do not receive any direct services for the city on our behalf on this property. We have been directed to El Dorado County for all law enforcement services that we receive, and that's who we work with. And in light of that, we've developed a very successful management partnership with the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office and with El Dorado County in general, who is working on other priority projects such as the South Tahoe Greenway extension from Sierra to South Avenue and the Upper Truckee Bridge replacement project. So despite this process moving forward and having been in process for many months, Tahoe RCD has received very, very limited communication on this and has not had an opportunity to understand the process or how it affects our ongoing planning or other projects in the area that are community priorities, including EIP priorities. So in light of that, we would respectfully request that no action be taken on this item and this item be continued until we have an opportunity to meet with city staff to understand this process and its implications and how it affects our associated planning processes that have been undertaken under the understanding that the property and the area adjacent is within El Dorado County jurisdiction. So some of our questions that need to be addressed prior to Tahoe RCD being able to support or oppose this are as follows. How will this annexation impact in-process planning and permitting processes for our restoration project, which is in its 4th year of planning right now, and we've been working with El Dorado County that entire time? How does annexation impact the South Tahoe Greenway and Upper Truckee Bridge replacement? Who will implement that project? Will the county continue to be the lead? Who will build it? Who will maintain it? Those questions need to be answered prior to jurisdiction change. What are the city's plans to address recreation and other public activities already taking place in this annexation area? What are the differences between the county code and the city code? How does that impact our management protocols or policies? And how does the South Lake Tahoe Police Department intend to take enforcement actions in Johnson Meadow, which are currently undertaken by the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office. In particular, how is SLTPD coordinating with public landowners and managers to address and manage illegal encampments? So thank you for that, and we look forward to working with the city on this issue.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak on this item?
Good afternoon. My name's Kirk Ledbetter, and appreciate the comments on the CTC. I was one of the people that tried to get the stream restoration project underway years ago. We were not able to do it due to the requirement of 20 years of care and maintenance. And as private homeowners, that was just beyond our scope of work. So it's good to see that that is still underway. I have questions about, and they might be answered through some of the questions you were just asked, the bike pathways that we've seen on Forest Service maps connecting properties, the bridge replacement, which I feel is kind of an important issue, crossing that marsh area without doing that correctly, stream restoration project that was ongoing. And we also have a business, one of my partners is here today, that would abut this property. So the response time, was always a concern. Sheriff's Department would respond to the marsh areas, all carved out, but now the city will have to respond, South Lake Tahoe Fire Department. So just want to make sure I go on record asking these questions now as you move through this process, so we can see that all these questions are handled, and we understand as property owners, people in the area that are concerned with the health and the maintenance of the marsh area, that it's taken care of long-term.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Do we have anyone else in the audience who'd like to come up and speak on this item? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open it up for the Zoom platform.
Thank you, Chair. Before we go to our Zoom platform, I just did want to note for the record written public comment that we received from the following persons: Batalico, Allen, Goodrich, Johansson, Brian, Johansson, Karen, TRCD, and Yates. And now we'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 2. There are no additional public comments at this time, Chair.
All right, thank you. And with that, we will go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the Planning Commission for discussion. Do we have any thoughts, comments, questions so far?
Yeah, I actually had the exact same comments that they mentioned, or questions. How would it affect the campground for one, and the greenway and whatnot? And I'm a little surprised that there isn't more information on those discussions. And although I think the annexation makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways, I think that maybe we're moving too fast on it, and it should be held back.
Yeah, I think the Tahoe Resource Conservation District makes a really good point. And for myself, ultimately, I believe that this is the right direction for the city to move. But I think, there isn't a massive rush on this. And I do think that there are some questions that will need to be answered, in particular regarding whose responsibility will be, whether the current services as provided by El Dorado County can and will be maintained by the city, but in a large way, how it, I think bringing up the projects that are in progress right now and how those will be impacted in terms of the planning and permitting, because I don't know how long those projects are going to take if they've already been in planning for 4 years. So I think that is a good conversation to have with the city. So I would be fine holding this item until the next Planning Commission meeting.
Yeah, I was hoping to hear that there would be more on there, that this was important to proceeding faster on the Greenway plan, but I didn't hear any of that. I would assume it is, but it doesn't appear that that's been communicated very well yet. And also the concerns about, I understand the campground has got a lot of challenges with the homeless as well. So there definitely needs to be there's some serious concerns that would need to be talked about.
Mr. Hitchcock, I had a question for you. From the city's perspective, is there sort of a ticking timeline on this that we do need to meet to make this happen? Or is this a process that, could stand a bit of delay?
Do you want to take that, Zach?
Yes, Mr. Hitchcock. Chair, yeah, I'm happy to answer some of those questions in that regard. So really, this is, today in front of the commission is a request for a pre-zone. It doesn't authorize annexation, it doesn't approve it, it doesn't even start that process. So at the time a request for annexation is made, that will come to the planning commission. City management is in the process of negotiating a lot of the terms kind of mentioned here today, in terms of service agreements, tax sharing agreements, permitting process agreements. State law basically requires that you have to have all that figured out prior to LAFCO, in this case, approving the annexation. So all that's kind of happening in the background. What this does is it gets rid of this first step, or accomplishes this first step, I should say, in the overall process. So that, again, this is a pre-zoning that is consistent with the current zoning and within the city's existing sphere of influence. So in terms of timelines, there are, like I said, a lot of things in play right now in terms of negotiation and things like that. So, we can't really say, will not making a decision on pre-zone impact those other negotiations that are occurring? I wouldn't want to say yes or no on that, but I can say that those negotiations are occurring and really have to be finalized before any annexation would occur, which is not being considered at this moment.
I can also add that, and since we're not changing the underlying zoning, all the uses that are currently permissible there today will continue to be permissible, and any ongoing projects that are currently in the works or future projects while we're going through this annexation process would still be reviewed under the purview of TRPA and El Dorado County. Like I said, our jurisdiction doesn't take effect until LAFCO approves annexation. And I don't think it's the city intent is to change how those properties are currently zoned.
I appreciate the clarification. I think that's really helpful. I think, based on many of the comments we've received and sort of the things that we've heard today, the majority of the concern is like from today to tomorrow, there's going to be this massive change and all these services are going to be altered and all these processes are going to change. But it's sounding like this is just the first step, and the city will be reaching out to everyone who has concerns, and there's plenty of time to basically answer these questions before this becomes reality, which could be a few years down the road. So I think with that in mind, I would be comfortable going ahead with this item. So do we have a motion, or do we need any more discussion?
I can make a motion. I'm kind of on board with what you're saying, just pre-zoning. So yeah, all right, I suggest we make a motion, pass a resolution recommending the city council adopt a resolution amending general plan LU-1 land use diagram, city code title 6, chapter 6.55, article 2, section 6.55.120, pre-zoning 90 parcels for subsequent annexation of such properties, finding the pre-zoning of the properties in the general plan amendment is consistent with the general plan, and finding that the proposed action is exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15061B3.
If I may, I would suggest also adding section 15319 as well to the end of that.
Yes, all right, and proposed amendment to general plan pre-zoned the properties in the Upper Turkey Marsh exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15319, annexation of existing facilities and lots for exempt facilities.
Yeah, I will second that.
That motion carries.
Thank you. And I did want to mention that, based on our conversation just now, I'm looking forward to, as this process moves forward, hearing further comments from all the involved parties and how things are going with the process. And with that, we will go ahead, move on to item 3, our South Tahoe Public Utility District Solar Project.
And we need to get Commissioner Feiger. I can. He's on his way.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, for the record, John Hitchcock, Planning Manager. The item before you is consideration of the proposed South Tahoe Public Utility District Solar Project. The district is proposing to construct a 1,339 kilowatt DC ground-mounted photovoltaic system east of the existing wastewater treatment plant. The parcels are owned by the utility district. The project includes the construction of the solar array arranged in an east-west orientation that totals 18 arrays in total with a southern exposure. The arrays are designed to be 4 feet above ground on the low side and up to 10.5 feet above ground on the high side. The project also includes the construction of an access road from the wastewater that connects the site to the wastewater treatment plant, a fence enclosure for safety reasons, and a concrete pad for transformers and switch gears required to transmit power to the district's electrical service connection. The project will require the removal of mature conifers that totals approximately 6.83 acres. The utility district has prepared a timber harvest plan that complies with the California Forest Practice Act and has received a permit from CAL FIRE. The solar project is located in Planner Statement 101, Bijou Meadow, where regional and public health and safety facilities are permitted uses as with a special use permit. The solar project is considered an accessory use to the primary use, which is the existing wastewater treatment facility. Planning Department evaluated the proposed project and found it to be consistent with all applicable citywide design standards, the Lake Tahoe Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan, and the City General Plan, which encourages implementation of green infrastructure to address sustainability objectives. The project is also consistent with the South Lake Tahoe Climate Action Plan to increase renewable energy and storage throughout the community. The project is also evaluated for consistency with the special use findings and was found to be consistent. The project is desirable and necessary and will provide a continuous sustainable source of energy for the wastewater treatment plant. The project will not be injurious to the neighborhood. The project location and the solar arrays will not be visible from the nearest neighborhood, which is Pioneer Village, due to existing topography and mature vegetation, so there'll be no effects on neighborhood as a result of light and glare. The project is consistent with the applicable planner statement, which permits regional public health and safety facilities with a special use permit. The district did prepare an initial study, which concluded that the project would not have a significant impact on the environment with implementation of the proposed mitigation measure to reduce impacts on biological resources. The district approved the mitigated neg deck on September 7th and filed a notice of determination with the Office of Planning and Research and the El Dorado County Clerk. Affected properties were mailed public notice on November 3rd, as we did not receive written comments, but we did, Ms. Lou Perini, who's in the audience, did give me a call, but I did not get back to him. Planning staff is recommending the Planning Commission pass a resolution adopting the South Tahoe Public Utility District Solar Project Mitigated Negative Declaration. Find the project as condition is consistent with the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan, the City of South Lake Tahoe General Plan, Citywide Design Standards, and Planner Statement 101 Bijou Meadow, and approve the Major Design Review Permit and the Special Use Permit. And then concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Hitchcock. Do we have any questions regarding the presentation?
I had one question. I didn't see it in the staff report, but was there, and maybe it's better for the applicant, but is there any estimate of how, like, what percentage of the facility's annual electricity use this will fill?
I can leave that to Julie
Great.
Ryan, but it is written in the mitigate neg deck, and I can search for it.
Oh, I didn't see it. All right. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we will go ahead and open this item up for public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to come up and speak on it, come on up. Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Lou Perini, and thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. I'm here to speak on this subject, and I guess just me and two members, one member of the board, and the head engineer at the sewer district is here, so I'm going first. This I'll give to the handout to board members, and that's from the California Tahoe Conservancy on their wildlife conductivity study, which I think will be impacted by this project. Definitely, I think it's part of the wildlife corridor, and the project fails to develop or mention any information from a wildlife biologist on the impact of birds and birds of prey, bears, beavers, ducks, coyotes, chipmunks, squirrels, rabbits, raccoons, mountain lions, bobcats, and many more. This project will go, oh, by the way, I've owned property adjacent to the treatment plant for a little over 50 years. I know that meadow, and I know the property behind that meadow very well. And I've seen wildlife, we're losing wildlife corridors. There's no proposed wildlife crossings. And the more fencing you put up, the more you will impact the wildlife corridor. And the fencing that's proposed to be put up by this project will be 900 feet long from where the wastewater treatment plant original boundaries exist on their map that's part of their packet. Also part of their packet on this map, it shows no cell tower that is on their property that's adjacent to the solar treatment, the solar array project. So I think the impact on the wildlife and being in a wildlife corridor and extending the fence line 900 feet and taking out over hundreds of trees, the very thing that absorbs CO2 emissions, taking those out, there's been no estimate in the staff report of the amount of CO2 emissions that would be absorbed by these amount of trees that are taking out, and I am talking hundreds of trees. I think there's 250 larger than 14 inches in diameter, 6 feet from the ground. There's no mention of that. And there's alternate sites. If I could have another minute.
I'm sorry, I don't think we can do another minute, maybe another like 10 seconds.
Okay, there's alternate sites. They're in a stream zone. They have two retention basins in a stream zone. You would eliminate the transmission line. You could put the solar array there where the two retention basins are, and you would eliminate the transmission line and all the coverage and impacts on the forest. If you put the project there, there's more than enough roof space to accommodate those amount of solar project. Thank you for the extra time.
Thank you for your comments.
And if anybody contradicts or my remarks, I would like an opportunity to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else who would like to speak on this item?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Nick Exline. I'm on the SDPUD board. I'm also a member of the City of South Lake Tahoe 100% Renewable Committee. And I'd like to tell you a quick story how we got here today. So shortly after running for the SDPD board in 2016, a group of individuals worked collectively with the City of South Lake Tahoe the city council, city staff, to develop the 100% renewable resolution. And what that was looking to move our community to 100% renewable energy to demonstrate our environmental stewardship, but also help to develop redundant systems so that we were prepared in the event of an emergency, in particular fire. So following that unanimous support, where this room was completely full with individuals wearing white shirts, an individual reached out and said, we would like to help your community move forward with that objective. And that was the beginning of that process in 2017. Move forward, working with the STPUD board and the amazing staff. It was a very arduous process to get here. Not so much because of the work of staff, but because moving forward with the solar project is incredibly complex with a lot of things to consider. A lot of negotiations, like you might imagine, with Liberty Energy. But as we continue to move forward on this project, it was incredibly important to our community. Because what we found time and time again is the issue of solar energy, making our community more energy independent, was brought forward. Both the electorate, as they brought forward elected officials, the agreements brought forward by those elected officials who routinely voted for renewable energy and moving forward with this objective, the collaboration we exist within a community with STPUD, the school district, the community college, Barton, the STZ, a huge collaborative of individuals working towards this goal. And why this project is so important is, on a massive project of this scale, STPUD was the first one out of the gate. And so what we wanted to do, we wanted to learn this information and then be able to share it with city staff. And this collaboration is ongoing. So this has been an amazing process, and I'm really, really excited to be here today. A lot of time and effort has gone into this effort, and I would really just want to single out STPUD staff. If it wasn't for their diligence, their perseverance, their heart, and their character, we wouldn't be here today. It was very, very arduous, and I thank you so much for your time. If there's any questions about process or kind of any historical context I could provide, I greatly happy to do so, but thank you again.
Thank you. Last but not least.
Good afternoon. My name is Julie Ryan, and I am the South Tahoe Public Utility District Engineer. And I want to just echo everything that Nick just shared with you. We are very proud of this project and to be taking this move forward. This project will offset approximately 1/3 of the power consumption at our wastewater treatment plant. So it is a big step in the right direction towards renewable resources for our wastewater treatment. We've been working with Staten, the developer for the solar project, since 2021, and we're looking forward to the project that they have designed, and we are ready to get rolling on construction. We're hopeful that with the Commission's approval that we will see this project put into service early in 2024. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, you stay. I had one quick question for you.
Please.
You might be able to answer. So when we were looking at the design of the solar panels, as John mentioned, one side is about 4 feet, the other is about 10.5. Are you expecting to have any sort of snow buildup, or how are you guys planning on dealing with snow?
Yeah, so that is an excellent question. That's why the low edge is as high off the ground as it is that in most years, we expect that the snow will naturally shed with the aspect and angle of the array and accumulate on that downslope edge, but not build up above the bottom of the panels. And so, last year's snow load, nobody's going to design for that. When we're faced with that kind of winter again, then we'll have to assess whether it makes sense to clear out between the aisles of the array. But on a typical year, we expect that they will be effectively self-clearing.
Do you know, because I know with some solar panels, and maybe this is an older technology, if a portion of them is covered, they're just out. are these different? Or even if some were covered with snow or other debris, the rest would still function?
Yeah, I believe the production would be reduced, but not completely depleted. And I'm honestly only speaking because I have a solar array on my own home, and that's what I see when that bottom row gets covered first. The production drops, but it doesn't go away completely, and then the rest of the array continues to produce at full capacity. So I'm anticipating that their design would be somewhat similar.
Thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you. Any others?
I think we're good for now. Seeing no one else in the audience, let's go ahead and open this up for Zoom.
Yeah, we'll open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 3. There are no additional public comments at this time, Chair.
Thank you very much. With that, we will go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the Planning Commission for discussion. Anybody want to start us off?
I do have one question, maybe for staff. Just following up on the wildlife corridors question, the ISMND said that there are no established wildlife corridors in the project area. Is that?
That's correct. The initial study states that there's the proposal would not have an impact on wildlife corridors. It did state that it would have a potential impact on bird nesting sites. Thus, the mitigation measure Bio 1, which is Bird Nest Site Protection Program, which has to be implemented during a nesting season.
Great, thank you.
Do we know when the trees are scheduled to be cut?
My understanding in talking to their environmental consultant that they plan to cut this winter.
Definitely not during nesting season.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. You have anything else, Gavin? No? Yeah, I know when we first started to look at this project, it does seem rather massive in scale. Personally, I think the offsets in terms of energy generation from a clean source are completely, worth it. The number of trees it's a lot, but I'm glad that there are some precautionary measures taking place. Luckily, when looking at the site plan, particularly the aerial image, it does look like they selected a portion of the parcel, which does seem to be less treed in general. And maybe this is a question for our SDPUD expert. How was this particular location selected? Because the roadway to it does seem pretty long. Was there a reason why it wasn't pushed closer to your facility?
Yeah, a couple of reasons. One, the topography in that area, when you push it further east, it is more beneficial to solar production because of the slope angle, and so we were taking advantage of that. The other consideration, however, was that SDPUD's primary purpose is treating wastewater, and trying to look forward to the future and what kinds of additional treatment requirements might be put on us that could at some point in the future require additional build out of the wastewater treatment plant. We wanted to give ourselves a buffer that we could in the future move into if treatment technologies require us to. A little bit of elbow room.
Makes sense. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Planning Commission, any other thoughts, comments, questions?
Yeah, like you said, it's a pretty big site, but I think it's well needed. We all use a lot of electricity, and we got to take some responsibility for it. I mean, we're cutting down trees, but we're replacing it with solar. It seems like a no-brainer to me, but yeah.
Yeah, I was a little, obviously very supportive of renewable energy, and was a little concerned about the size and the site. But looking at more detail and talking with staff and hearing the discussion today, and I go by there a lot because the Greenway goes right through there. And yesterday I went and kind of cruised around, and it's a huge area. I mean, yeah, it is a big disturbance and a lot of trees, but it really is a large area and it's a needed project. So it's kind of like it's like a strange environmental trade-off I'm having in my head. So
I mean, a third of South Tahoe Public Utility District's power. That's huge, I think.
Great. Do we have a motion? guess I'll go ahead and make the motion. It's okay. I'm going to make a motion to pass a resolution adopting the South Tahoe Public Utility District Solar Project, file number 23-105, mitigated negative declaration finding the project as conditioned is consistent with the airport land use compatibility plan, the City of South Lake Tahoe General Plan, citywide design standards, and PAS 101 Bijou Meadows, and approving the major design review permit and special use permit. Do I need to include the CEQA determination?
No.
Thank you.
I'll second.
That motion unanimously carries.
Thank you, and thank you everyone who gave us their comments. We appreciate them. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to updates and announcements from city staff. Do we have any?
I'd like to introduce Gretchen Schoolman. She's our new assistant planner, all the way
Hey,
from the great
welcome.
state of Colorado. She previously was working at City of Boulder, correct? City of Boulder, we're excited to have her here, and she's already working on her first new single-family plan checks. Exciting stuff. Well, TRPA stuff. It's exciting.
It's wonderful. Please make
And,
John less busy.
and your next meeting actually is coming up pretty quick. It's December 7th.
Hey, that's my birthday. Oh, cool. Expect gifts. Food is fine. For your staff comments?
Yeah, nothing.
That's all right then.
I will just update the planning commission that at the city council's last meeting, they decided not to appoint someone from our existing list of planning commissioners, and so we are continuing recruitment efforts, and stay tuned on that.
No reports from me today.
All righty, in that case, do the commissioners have anything to add to the conversation? No? All right, I guess we are adjourned. I don't have a gavel, but adjourned.